Welcome to the GoPROcast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to go pro with Jeremy Torisk. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate the hell out of every single one of you. Today I have a special guest. For over 20 years, he's learned from some tremendous mentors and worked with various capacities. His experiences in event management, sales and marketing, and in trade shows and content creation have provided him with some wonderfully entertaining stories. And we're going to hear a lot of them today on the GoPro show. Please help welcome my next guest, Doug Meridian. Buddy.
Good morning. How are you, Jeremy?
What's going on, man?
Oh, well, first off, I wanted to, I thought I'd wear my nice tropical Hawaiian shirt for you because you're in sunny Florida and I'm freezing my butt off here in Buffalo. So you talk about mindset, right? I figure maybe it'll put me in a tropical, warm, maybe make me feel a little warmer if I wear this shirt. So.
Yeah, I had to get my winter socks out over the weekend. It dropped down into 58 down south.
I don't know how you do it. But,
we all have our struggles.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, good to finally talk to you. You have people on your show that you don't know. You bring people, authors, and different people in businesses. So you and I met a couple, and it's getting well over a year now through the Huddle, basically. Yeah. And so, in homage of my buddy Steve, I always ask, "Tell me something good. What's going on in your life that's good today?"
Oh, well, we're excited. I mean, we're still in the honeymoon phase with our kids as far as like Christmas goes. They're still young enough that they, all the excitement and the fever around it. But so I mean, that's number one. I'm just signed on to a couple clients to do some consulting work for us. I'm excited to help them get their businesses off the ground. So yeah, life is good, man. It's other than me having to break out the snowblower. Things are good.
So tell me about the business then, because I know you were, first off, I kind of want to start backwards. Let's go
sure.
And you were in, what is, even the name of it is hard for me to say sometimes. It had to do with vision and
ophthalmology. Yep.
Ophthalmology. Okay. So how was your experience with that? How long were you in that industry? And is that the kind of the same clientele that you're working with now?
Yes. So I've been involved in healthcare sales and marketing in some form or fashion for about 20 years now. It's kind of funny to hear myself say that. I don't feel like I'm that old, but I was fortunate. So just to maybe backpedal a little bit. I moved. I had this great experience. We can go through all the different experiences, but when I moved back to Buffalo, the Buffalo area, there's only in the what we call the Rust Belt, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. There's only so many industries. Manufacturing had. So I started to look at what can I do. If I choose to stay here, close to friends, close to family, and this is going back 20 years, I'd love to say I had all this foresight, but. Healthcare was one of those areas where I could be a teacher, I could be a union plumber, I could be, but healthcare, there's healthcare in every city, in every
job security, right? No drone, no AI.
There's,
improve it
in every market. There's healthcare. Doesn't matter where you are, right? And then I thought, well, sales, which I had already dabbled in. So I was able to get involved with a company and sign on with a company that family-owned business. The owner of the company, he's about 10 years older than me. So he was a fantastic mentor, and he's still a friend, and I was there for 10 years. So I'm we could talk about that too at some point, but forever grateful for him taking me under his wing, really, teaching me, I think, the right way to selling with integrity, the fact that it is personal, at least to me it is. So So from there, that was a home medical equipment provider. So we were in people's homes working with doctors and facilities, so that when people would come home from the hospital, maybe they needed a hospital bed, maybe they needed oxygen equipment, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they needed, various. You're basically setting up a suite of products for them in their home, so they can be cared for at home rather than in the facility. Um, so from there, I was after those 10 years, I was given an opportunity to help another kind of family-owned business, but more in the pharma space. Um, help them get off the ground. Help them get off the ground. And what they were doing specifically was custom medications for ophthalmology, so eye doctors. So these are things that eye doctors maybe aren't as readily available, and you have to do them custom in a pharmacy or a lab, and that's the niche that we
Okay.
filled. That company went from about two and a half. I was their first employee,
Hmm.
aside from another pharmacist. I was their first sales and marketing employee, and that company uh, went from about $2.5 million in business in year one to almost $20 million in business almost 5 years later when I left. So,
Bam.
so I, I always say, the zeros might, some people talk about hundreds of millions, but to 10x a company in 4 or 5 years is pretty. It doesn't, whether
It's
it's
very
yeah.
impressive.
So I was very proud of that. But
Now, what
yeah,
do you think the base cause or the base root of the success of that growth, the scalability of it? Did you guys grow wide? Did you grow deep? Did you go national? What was kind of some of the key components of the success or the growth?
that's and I would love to take credit for a lot. I like to take credit for some of it, but the other thing was, and that's where I think the pandemic, this is where it was interesting. I didn't realize that my experiences had maybe prepared me a little bit more than
Mm,
So that company took off because there was a major shift in the market, the regulatory
mm.
landscape as to what you could and could not do, per the FDA.
Yeah,
So it was a sea change. There was a sea change in that industry. Some people got on board and embraced it. Whether
yeah,
same thing. The pandemic hit. Some people got on board, embraced the idea that things were going to be more virtual. I know this
right.
guy. I know this guy, Jeremy Torisk, who did amazing. Right. I mean, some people like you embraced it. Other people resisted, and it impacted their success. And so that um, the owners of that company, both pharmacists themselves, um, they saw that there was a sea change,
Yeah,
that this was inevitable. It was coming. There was
embrace it.
embrace it. There were
Yeah,
opportunities to be born from it, and they really pursued it aggressively. So for us, it was a lot about educating the market of who we were, what we were doing, why it provided more peace of mind to these physicians about where their product was coming from, how it was, that we were a trusted
yeah,
source for these products. I mean, basically what we were, what that industry, what I'm and still doing is you're talking about people who are going to the doctor to protect and um, protect their eyesight and for their eye health.
yes,
And there have been studies, crazy as it is, there's been studies or surveys, Jeremy, where people would say, if you were told that you were going blind or told you had a cancer, a treatable cancer diagnosis,
yeah,
which one would you? And they say cancer.
sure. But in the eyes also, they have there's so much health related, provincial health related things you can catch by visiting your ophthalmologist regularly because they can see so much into your state of health through your eyes, right? Aren't there like 100 different illnesses you can see just from an eye visit that's
It,
not
it,
related to eye illness but overall health?
it really is amazing. I think how not being a clinician myself, I don't try to pretend, but the more you're in the industry, the longer you're in the industry, you realize, the supercomputer that the eye is. It's
Right.
unbelievable. It's really fascinating. So yes, there's a lot that you can tell, and maybe that even correlates to things like, body language and when you're communicating with people, and the signals that you get from eye movement and such. I know, FBI interrogators even look at what they're doing, or where their eyes are shifting when they're
Oh
asking
yeah.
certain questions. I mean, it's amazing. They say, what do they say? The eyes are the window to the soul, right?
Right.
So yes, the eye the more I've been in that industry, the more I've come to appreciate the services that these physicians provide, and the impact it has on people.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a ton of other. You and I were just talking about orthopedics, and of course, every doctor has their specialty, but um,
The
and then
optics, the same as with your business. Having optics on your business and in your business can solve so many health problems of your business if you actually look at it the right way, clinically. Looking at your business every month or twice a month at the different leading indicators, as opposed to the lagging indicators, treating the symptoms, looking at it proactively, and keeping the right optics will save your business from dying.
well,
So it's all related.
and that might be a good segue. You also have to be willing. You can't just see what you want to see when you do that.
Mm,
So Mark, Noodleberg, our friend Mark, there's a former football coach.
yes.
I was lucky enough to play in college, small time college football, but he coached, and when you coach, you're constantly looking in the mirror after every game. What could we have done different? What could we have done better, win or lose? Right? I
Yeah.
mean, so I always say coaches are
Even more so when you lose, probably.
so. I mean, really, really good coaches in any sport, or in any industry, good leaders in any industry, really take a look at a deep. They're and they can't just see the things they want to see. They're willing to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Yeah.
and say these are the things we needed. We didn't do that as well as we should have. We got lucky; it didn't burn us. Who knows? But I really think that's what makes for good coaches and good business people. So you're right. You need to be looking at the optics. Um, you need to be performing that analysis.
Very
But
vigilant and knowing which things to look at. And there's high value production items, and then there's low value production items. And if you pay attention to the low value, you're wasting your time. You're spinning wheels on things that aren't important. So it's very complex, but that's entrepreneurship today is complex in a lot of ways. But it's also never been easier to grow a business with your network marketing, building your brand. And kind of that's how we met each other, is through the personal relationship building, which is the virtual coffee, something that the Noodlebergs coined,
yep,
I believe. I've given them the credit.
I
But
think they have.
that's that part of any business, regardless of how healthy your business is and things that you can improve upon, growing your network, and they say your network is your net worth, is something that organically can be done for free, especially if it's done from the right place. Like we met through a virtual coffee, and you're in one field in health with ophthalmology, and at the time I was doing construction on a national level. They couldn't be more different, but there
Right.
are similarities in just our DNA that make us go, where do you want to go in 5 years and 10 years, and where your family are, and those things are universal for entrepreneurs. And that's where the commonality and the thread binds us, right? So you're now running your own deal, Peridot Ventures. Did I say that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Peridot Ventures. So I basically my wife, my kids, my wife and both my sons are born in August. So the birthstone of August is Peridot.
Oh,
So
Peridot. Okay.
so that's where I went with. So I went with that. So
That's family
um,
tie.
yeah. So well, that's my motivation, right? It keeps
It's,
me.
it's
It
probably
keeps
your
me.
drive,
I
which
come
is,
back. I go, why is that name? Well, it's because the three people
yeah.
in my life, three people in my life that I'm, most important to, and going to bed, next to every night are uh, August babies.
So
So
I just got these made. So they're not up yet, but and it's right on top. Examine your whys to develop your drive, right? And so your why is your family, and
For sure.
and if the further you examine those whys, the deeper and the stronger your drive will be. Because motivation, as Zig Ziglar says, is temporary, like baths. That's why you need to do it every day, because it doesn't last. So like bathing. So knowing that is really key to success.
And that self-aware, the why, I think you can unpack that and come to, things like self-awareness. I gave a lot of thought about today and sitting with you and, what to talk about. And I know you said it's just a conversation, but I really would be, I guess what I'm hoping is that people who see this, who are following you, I hope they just find some comfort. They find the confidence to go out and do some of the things. What you're doing is just fantastic.
Thank you.
And I gotta give you kudos and just the way that you've pivoted and but also pursued a passion. I mean, you could tell this is something that you wanted to do for a long time. I know that because we've talked about it. But there's just so much going on. So I guess what I'm hoping is that when people see this and it's amazing to me the resistance that some people have towards networking that's not in person, right? Virtual, I guess we could call it virtual, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, how is this? It's not that different. It really isn't. I remember the first time you and I actually had a chance to just have a virtual coffee. You're just like it is right now. Your drum set is sitting in the back, right? And I go, you play? He said, I play, right? How is that any different than if you go to a networking event and the person there has on the same watch as you do? And you go, oh, I love my watch. That's no different. The only difference is you're doing it, you're not doing it in the room together. You're doing it online together.
And I think it's easier. It's you get to be more comfortable. And it's quieter, and you don't have to fight traffic on the way there, and have your family get mad because you had to miss dinner on the way back, and look at the scale,
And I needed my eyes open to that, and to talk a lot of the things you said about turning failures into successes and such, and we just talked about looking in the mirror as a coach and things. I had that moment. We had built this company up. To beyond what we ever thought it could be in a 4 or 5 year period, and things started to get a little contentious, right? It started to there were some differences of opinion of where the business should go, what the direction should be, what my role should be. It wasn't great, and for me, the best thing to do was eventually move on. Okay. And that stung because I had put a lot of work into it. I really, I put a ton of work into it. I'd spent time away from my family to grow the business. I was traveling a lot. I was really proud of, I thought now was the time for me to kind of enjoy a little bit of the fruits of the labor, but not, you don't stop working, of course. But
it's always a grind, no matter what effort you do. But now the difference is, who are you grinding for?
So, I made the choice to move on. So it was made. The choice was. It probably wasn't hard for me to do that. I think there was some external forces encouraging probably that.
Right.
So, but the fact of the matter is, afterwards, it was kind of when I came into this whole kind of community with the Nudelbergs and you and Ronell Richards actually was the first one. I got to give props to Ronell. So, and it was Ronell who looked at me and said, listen, I know you're, feeling a little slighted. I know you're right. He goes, but what role did you play in that?
I love that. Hold on. That one, bam, we're going to melt the walls. That's a big one. Ronell has a lot of those.
And he says, you got to take a step. And so this whole tsunami of kind of LinkedIn, my networking, my desire to become more self-aware,
Yeah.
that this whole tsunami kind of was set off, and it's been fun, but it's been work. I didn't realize the work that how much, so I took that, I ran with it, but then I started saying, well, wait a second, I think I need a coach. I think I need somebody to help me work through this. I think I need somebody. And then I thought, where am I going to find that?
Okay.
Well, I
Yes.
turned to LinkedIn, and I
Yeah.
start, right. Who's doing this? Who's, what does this person seem to think, or who do they recommend to work with? And the fellow that I ended up connecting with and still work with today, and consider him a friend and a wonderful coach, is Jamon Bailey. So Jamon's out of Maryland, and
Mm.
but so here we are, right? You're in Florida, I'm in Buffalo. Jamon, my coach is in Maryland. I mean,
Yes.
I would have, if I go back even just a few years, 6, 7 years, I'm not looking for anybody outside of the Buffalo market to help me with
Yes.
these things.
Right.
I'm not.
Yep. And there are
I'm
some
not.
great people there, but it's just the perspectives are all regional, right? Regional minded, probably
Yeah,
for any of us, anywhere.
and self-awareness. How am I presenting myself? Is it, not what I say, but how I say it? And
Mm.
are there things what could I have done differently? Would the
Yes.
outcome have been any different? Probably not. Would I have been able to um, been better equipped to process it? Think through, be ready for next steps, things like that. Yes,
Yeah.
had I had that. So I guess where I'm going with all this is that for anybody who's out there, listening to your podcast here, and and they're just not comfortable, or they're uneasy, and they're just hesitant. um it's a fantastic, there's so many resources out there, so many people who are wanting and willing to help. You're one of them. um
Nathan is a good connector too. Nathan brought us together, right?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
And Nathan, his marketing group had brought on an ophthalmology practice, and they were kind of learning as they went, the ophthalmology practice. And he calls me, he says, hey, you look like have a really good handle on this industry, can we talk? Absolutely. Never knew him, never met him, but here he is, he introduces me to you.
yep.
I had already known the Noodlebergs, or had been following the Noodlebergs. So it's just fantastic. It's a wonderful, my growth the last few years has been impacted. LinkedIn's had a huge impact on my
Oh God, yeah.
on my growth.
Business changing.
Yeah.
So with your business, then, what would you say you do for your clients? What kind of a client? What's your service? Your SME, your subject matter expertise?
Well, right now, I am representing a medical billing service and solutions. It's called Crestpoint Medical Billing Solutions, and also another. So Crestpoint, LinkedIn, same thing, right? I mean, LinkedIn also ophthalmology. The one thing I like about ophthalmology is the physicians in ophthalmology, for whatever reason, these eye doctors are very approachable. Most of them he or she are very down to earth. I don't know if it's because they're dealing with people on just that more really personal level.
Well, they are right there. I
Yeah,
think it's what's his name? The comedian. One of the comedians says a whole bit about right there, and in your face, Ray Romano or somebody. I forget who it is, but it's just so hilarious. And you stop and look at that relationship. You're right. It's really personal. The most personal you can be with your clothes on. Unless you go to my ophthalmologist, then for some reason I have to strip down. But that's a story for another show.
Well, it's Florida. So there you go. They're also, I think, dealing with patients that are, like I said, I mean, there's every specialty. There's, oncology with cancer patients, and, but these people are worried they might lose their eyesight.
Yeah.
Right. So now you're already kind of, if you're not somebody who has a decent bedside manner, you're already kind of in the thick of it. So
there's a vulnerability there.
Correct.
Trust. So what is your avatar, like your ideal client? What is that client? Is it a person? Is it a corporation? And of course, corporations are people, but decision makers. Who is it that you would love to help the most? What does that specifically look like?
Well, the thing is, and this is something that actually a hospital CEO said to me one time. They said she a hospital CEO said to me, she said, "You want to know one of the hardest things about being in healthcare?" And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "Getting paid." And the fact of the matter is, in the
Okay.
what people don't realize, and this is, I think, unfortunately, why some of the costs are inflated. Many of the costs are inflated is the fact it's extremely inefficient when it comes to reimbursement. People have a really hard time getting paid by their insurance companies. So
Okay.
here you are as an eye doctor,
Interesting.
so any physician or any physician practice, right, provides the service to you. You come in for your appointment. That maybe they do some treatment, whatever it may be. They have to prepare the bill to go out just right. There's all different there's codes that are
Codes out
constantly
the yin yang. Yeah.
everything's coding, and everything's got to be done just right, or it gets rejected. Okay, so, and if they're lucky, they get paid in 60 days
Mm.
after right, and now
Yes.
guess and now they're seeing a whole slate of patients the next day. So when it comes to revenue cycle in healthcare, it's not quick.
Yes.
Okay. And furthermore, it's difficult, and 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 it's probably one of the few industries by law a payer can choose not to pay you. An insurance company just
Mm.
say denied.
Without any real objective reasons, just
And not a
subjective.
lot of recourse. The recourse
Hmm.
is all if they deny the claim, you have to come back and prove that it's almost like guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
You have to prove that you are worthy of the payment. Well, wait a minute. The patient was in my office. I did,
Yes.
and you're going to tell me I'm not getting paid for any of it?
Right.
It's not, so it's tough. And I don't envy that situation, but at the same
So
time,
what's the value that you bring to these corporations or family,
so in a lot of
businesses?
yes, thank you. So in a lot of these practices, what you'll have, and not trying to put anybody out of a job, of course, but in a lot of these practices, what you'll have one single person who's responsible for all of that.
Yeah, the lady with the bun and the pen stuck in here, another one pen here, and a pencil here,
and
and
and that person can be as well intended and as sharp and smart as you could ask for, but they're going to get sick. They're going to have to take their parent to the
it's the
doctor.
linchpin. That's the whole business is depending on that one person's health or the person's
or they're
stability that is having behind that linchpin
or
the
when they
cash
have a
flow,
or when they have a question, they don't really have anybody to turn to next to them and say,
support,
how would you build this? How would you code this? How would you, right? So
keeping up with the industry changes, which happens how often, right? Like all the time, probably.
exactly. So years ago, probably 20 years ago, outsourcing of physician billing of that function became very, very popular. I remember in the late 90s, early 2000, it was huge, right? Physicians were saying, this makes sense.
Hmm.
I'm going to outsource it to another company. They have a team of people looking at this and reviewing it, and they're going to charge me. Usually it works on you charge a percentage of what's collected. Okay.
Right.
The problem was, again, newer industry, something that wasn't, really refined just yet. The problem was those agencies and those services were trying to do billing for everyone everyone and anything, right?
Right.
So now it's become much more specialized. So Crestpoint, which is neat, again through my network, the gentleman, Brian Case, who's the CEO of Crestpoint Medical Billing Solutions, is a former administrator. He was a practice administrator at an ophthalmology practice. He was in it for like 20 years. So after he got out of that, he started his medical billing service, and he's got experience working on the front lines of ophthalmology. He's run and managed practices. He knows the ins and outs, and now he's saying, hey, our group can do this service for you more efficiently, probably
Yes.
definitely more cost effectively, but also more expeditious. I mean, that's the other thing too. I mean, it's not that, and here's what's funny. Most of the people that we worked with, Jeremy, and I asked him this question, that nice lady that you described with the bun who's doing the billing, doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't, she's either he or she is given a lot of other duties, right? There's other things, there's plenty of other work to be done, right? There's plenty of other work to be done, or they're a part of the process. They're just not the only part of the process. They're not the one and only. So that person usually, when we bring somebody on there, when we bring on a new practice and start handling their billing and reimbursement for them, that person who was at their practice doing it before us doesn't usually go away.
They could take on others. So in my practice, in anything that I do in life, I follow the ADE rule, right? Automate it. If it has to be done every single day, you automate it. If it cannot be automated, you delegate it. And if you can't delegate it, you eliminate it.
Well,
okay. So
that's good.
You always have something to delegate, something that's bottom on your priority list. And if that person isn't the most efficient at doing that job and you can outsource it, now you take that person who's well-intended, who's a great employee, shows up every day, got a great heart, passion, fits the culture. Now you can delegate the next thing down on your list. They could probably do this, something that's more effective, something that's more local, customer-friendly, face-to-face, instead of doing all the minutia stuff in the back. That your company is now able to do. And with more proficiency, efficiency, and more finger on the pulse of the industry changes. What kind of savings, percentage-wise, you have any sort of numbers yet that your company benefit from going to a service like yours?
Well, I mean, just to give you an example, I wouldn't give you a hard percentage, but just give you an example. We were with a physician yesterday, and he was talking about the number of claims that they have that are 90 to 120 days outstanding. So they have yet to be paid 90 to 120 days later. Okay.
Crazy.
And Brian chimes in, and I said, and I've just started working with Brian, helping him with his outreach and strategy and such, and about a month ago. So, but we knew each other again through the ophthalmology world and networking and good old LinkedIn, and so we knew each other. So I'm waiting. I thought this is a good question because I'm waiting to hear. This will be good for me to learn, right? And he says, Doctor, I don't have a single client that has a claim older than 90 days.
Well, that's powerful.
Right. He says, so I'm not trying to talk bad about your, whoever you're working with now.
There's no need to.
He said, but I don't have a single client that we handle that we work with that is using us that has a claim outstanding more than 90 days. So, so that was, to me, I thought, wow, that's huge. That's like speeding up your revenue cycle overnight by 30 days. Right.
Right. It's selling a result.
Yeah. So, so that's exciting. And then, from that, again, same thing.
And that's got value. Whatever number that is, being paid faster is valuable. It's got a number that you could attach to that you could do other things to grow your business. If the money was coming in more quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, revenue cycle, RCM is a revenue cycle management for any medical practice. I mean, revenue cycle management can be applied to any business. Hey, your son in his landscaping business. How soon are we? How soon after providing services are we getting paid? Are they paying? Right. Maybe some of them are paying for the season. Maybe some of them. But if that revenue cycle isn't healthy, and it in your cash flow, I guess the old term cash flow just isn't tight. It makes it that much harder to do business. So I'm sorry to answer. And one last thing, just to add, the other products. So again, from LinkedIn, as I'm talking about ophthalmology, and I really like to stay in this space. People started reaching out to me. There's another group called Precise Bioscience, and they have a product called Accelerate. And they reached out to me, and they're trying to build out their sales team, but they're just launching, so they don't have the resources just yet to go out and hire salespeople all over the country. Right. So they call me and they say, "Hey, we'd love to partner with you and work with you and talk about, making some introductions and tapping into your network, basically. And
Wonderful.
I said, fantastic. So they have a lyophilized amniotic membrane. So that's
easy for you to say, buddy.
right. So what it basically is anytime a patient comes in with an eye injury, kind of like a scar, a burn, something, anything of that nature, this is a treatment that actually sits kind of in a contact lens, and it uses basically stem cells. So what it does, it helps the eye regenerate and heal, and it's unbelievable. I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, like, so that's a fantastic product as well. And so what's neat about it is, the two of them, these two companies that I'm excited to work with, really kind of complement one another, because what happens is, if I'm talking to a company about the amniotic membrane, they say, well, how do we bill it? How do we get reimbursed for it?
Yeah, sure.
For you, right? They want to know, is it billable? Will insurance pay for it? Right. Well, then that spurs a conversation of, well, by the way, just curious, who's handling your billing?
Right.
And then, and vice versa.
The symbiotic relationship there,
right,
where they build on each other. And
right. So it's a great, listen, the answer to your question is, I want to be a resource to people in the ophthalmology space, because I have built up so many good friendships with different vendors, do I represent those vendors or those equipment providers? And no. But if you say to me, Doug, I need somebody to talk to, I need somebody really good to work with that does X, I can probably put you in touch with the right person. So
right.
I'm just very
gold.
proud. Yeah, and
it's one of the Noodleberg's rules, right? Like, I don't remember which rule it is. The book's behind my shoulder. It's one that I predominantly put up there because he's kind of a hero to me. But it's the referral, and even more than the referral is the introduction, right? And that's the highest level of business conveyance you can have. You could tell somebody about a business, you can refer them to a specific person, or you can actually do the introduction. So what you're doing with the introductions has much more transition value, or trend, whatever the T word,
right.
Amazing value, the worth, value that is worth the whole reason that why we're doing these virtual coffees and building these relationships and getting to know what other people do, not to make money by doing that, but to build your net worth and to be worth more than it's building your value. It's having a service mentality, right? I just want to help people succeed and whatever. And your business is now national, right? You can help anyone anywhere.
Yeah, and I have, I think that, that served me well with the two companies. The two companies I've worked for in the last 8 or 10 years. We're both in the ophthalmology kind of retina, eye doctor space. And I was traveling and handling national accounts. So yeah, I threw a wide net and was able to build a big network, a vast network. And another thing, kind of to circle back to people, I'm hoping, like I said, I hope, today it's like, well, what makes you unique or whatever. And I say, well, I hope people would look at this and listen to this and say, maybe maybe I should leverage and tap into LinkedIn a little bit more. And I say LinkedIn specifically, but it's funny. I don't know what other people's experiences have been. And maybe I've done something to help, to help mitigate that.
Well, it's truly the relationships that I've built in the last year and a half has been all on LinkedIn. And this is a key example of how great these relationships are.
Well, that's where I was going to go. Maybe other people's experiences have been different, but everyone that I've really kind of invested in, or, and really gotten to know, and it's been very sincere. Very rarely do I get somebody, and I'm sure now you're out there and a little bit more, you're getting solicited, so to speak. But, my connections and the people that I spend time with, here you are spending an hour with me this morning, are very sincere and just want to help. There's no hidden agenda. There's no, but the thing is, if I'm ever, if one of these companies takes off and I ever host a sales training or bring, who do you think's going to talk to them? Steve Nodelberg.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
absolutely.
Right. I mean, it's a given. Like it's, if that day ever comes, he's going to be the first call I make. Say, Steve, I want you to come talk to the group. Right. I mean, so, he seems to take that approach. We take that approach. So if anyone's out there and they're hesitant about tapping into this network or just kind of putting themselves out there a little bit,
Hmm.
like my shirt, have some fun with it. Just
Absolutely.
just go, just start
It's
and
Don Shula says that the what stops the most people is the start. Right?
that's
It's the
yep,
start that stops most people is
yep.
his quote. And I really, that's one of my headliners that I look at. And whenever I try something new, just by starting, just showing up, just being there, I've
Mhm.
already won. You
Well,
know?
and it was the same thing with like my coaching, right? I never had a coach before. I'd never done a personality assessment or,
Right.
right.
Key.
And I thought, just start,
Yeah.
Doug. Just like take the initial meeting. There was like, I didn't have to sign up for weeks of training or whatever.
Right.
Right? It was like there was an initial kind of like meet, and I sat with Jaman, and after our 50-minute or 40-minute, whatever it was, initial call to decide whether or not we were a good fit for each other and wanted to, I got off
Right.
the phone. I got off the phone. I thought I'd be crazy not to work with this guy.
But
Like,
you just said a good
right.
fit for each other. So I have a new, I love acronyms. So EBP is a new one of mine. And I learned it this week from Ray Leone. And it's called Equal Business Partners. So whoever I work with, whether they're a client or whether it's a coach that I hire or people hire me to advise them or coach them, it's an equal business partnership.
Yes.
I'm not serving you in a way that's uh, upselling and saying, hey, I'm better than you, and that's why I can serve you and teach you. At the same time, if I go to a business with a corporation and they have 1,000 employees and they're billing, $50 million, I've done that. And so I know that what I'm giving you is going to raise your share value, but I'm not going to go, hat in hand and be thinking that I need to really provide such great subservient service to make you feel good. No, we're equal business partners, and that gives both people respect, commonality, and some understanding of where each other stands. So that's really key, especially when you're dealing with something where you're being vulnerable and say, I need to learn something, and somebody can teach me that. You treat that person, if that person treats you like an equal, well, that's going to let you make your guard down, let your guard down. And now you can learn more because you're going to be open up to them, to learning.
And on a broader, level, you want to talk about learning. I mean, there's some amazing nuggets on LinkedIn daily.
Yes.
I might not
Wherever
agree
you
with.
look.
I might. I haven't met 95% of these people, right? But you go through your feed for a few minutes, and you might not agree with everything in the post, but you'll grab something in there. Or at least I will. I'll grab something from that, and I'll say that's good. Like
Yeah.
I gotta add that to my notes, my list. I gotta try that. I gotta try that.
1%. Yeah.
I gotta
1%
try.
better. Learn something.
I'm going to try that. Josh Braun's another great one on LinkedIn. I mean, so even if you're okay, maybe you're not a connector, maybe you're not somebody who's looking to meet with a bunch of people. At least tap into the value that's there
Inspired.
on a daily basis.
Yeah. It's good, wholesome. It's inspirational. It's usually entrepreneurial, but there's a lot of family
Mhm.
aspect to it, especially when you get to know these people. People think they can't post pictures of their kids on LinkedIn, their baseball game. You can do that as long as you put kind of an entrepreneurial spin on the photo, right? The photo should stop the scroll, and then the words
Right.
kind of say, wait a minute, I see how this links into something that I learned in my career. So I always say it's okay to show those kind of pictures. You want to pick a day and kind of do the same kind of theme. Maybe that's a Saturday post. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Being at the beach, like I had a guy one time. I was helping him do his branding, and I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I own a junk company. I take junk away." And I said, "Man, you know how easy that is?" Like he didn't understand. Uh, Helping people clean out their junk, right? It's something you can take pictures of your workers working. Look how you're helping. So it's a serving. You're serving the community. But on the weekends, you can post yourself sitting on the beach looking at the water and going, now it's time to unload this junk in here from all week. Download. These are the kind of posts that are fine to put. It's
Yeah.
personal, but
Yeah.
it's business. All right.
Yeah.
It's like The Godfather. It's just business. It's not personal. It is, but it's business. You can tie
the
those together.
the I always have a lot of fun with how business correlates to life and life correlates to business. And I think so one of the neat things, I think it was again Mark Noteberg, he said, use LinkedIn to document. right? Like
Yes.
if you're not a content creator per se,
Yeah.
then just document. Today I learned this. Today I had a great. Today I had a chance to sit down with my good friend Jeremy, and what a great conversation we had. Yeah, I mean that's it.
Perspective.
That's
It's
it.
not like I'm not creating content. I'm just documenting. Gary Vee talks about that too.
But it's also, we all talk about gratitude and but it's also in a way it's kind of putting it out to the world that I'm grateful I had the chance to sit down with you today. I'm
Right. And
grateful.
vice versa.
I'm grateful for our friendship. I'm grateful that I've met you. Right. And when you post it, it kind of becomes real, right? It's almost an expression of gratitude. It's like, hey, I'm grateful I had a chance to sit with you, and that you asked me to be on this podcast where you have certainly more colorful characters than me. But
not today. You're the lead, man. You got me out colored for sure.
So
I don't have my remote control anymore, but I would have turned it back a little more tropical. But but it's great, and that's what we use this stuff for. It really does drive home the meaning of staying together in a place in our history that we are never been more physically apart, but it's never been easier to stay closer and connected with one good thing about technology. Thank God for it.
Well, and like we touched on earlier, I don't know that they're going to be, obviously they're not going to be on the scale of the pandemic, but what that shows us is, and what it reminds us of, is that it's inevitable. Things change and curveballs, unexpected, lightning bolts, I think is what Pat Riley referred to them as, will happen. And you can either, and the pandemic was, the lightning bolt of lightning bolts, but they're going to happen. Those things are going to happen in your life, and how you react to them, how you embrace them, what you do to pivot as a result of them. Really,
the only thing you can control,
correct,
is a reaction.
Correct.
I think that's a good note to wrap this up on. I know if we go much further, people will start losing interest just because of time. I wish I could get to the point where I'm Joe Rogan and I could do a 3-hour podcast. That'll come one day.
Well, slice it and dice it any way you want, and thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. So the best way to get a hold of you right now is probably LinkedIn and email, right? Your two go-to spots.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And if anyone's looking just for some,
that's a great photo too, buddy.
Well, thank you.
Doug, my wife. That's not too far from you, right?
No, it's not. That's right down the road. So
yeah, I've never been there. I've never been. So when I come up, Doug, you're going to have some house guests.
You're more than welcome. And I will say this: I honestly don't think there's anywhere better. I mean, we do suffer through our winters and such, but July and August up here are some of the best months. And people, talk to anybody up near the Great Lakes, Michigan, Ohio, things like that. July and August up here is just out of this world. Our summers are just perfect.
Yeah, I always remember Mayberry when I'm up there in that time of year. It just feels like Mayberry to me.
Yeah.
Light until 10 o'clock at night. That always blew my mind.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome anytime, my friend.
So, well, what is something that some of the listeners can do? How can we help you?
Really, I like to continue building my network, especially in the ophthalmology space. But anybody who's out there, in healthcare sales or marketing and may just want to bounce ideas around. I mean, quite frankly, me helping others has been the thing that's been the most fruitful for me. It's come back.
Yes.
It seems to come back around. So if others are out there, I'm happy to jump on for, like you said, virtual coffee with someone if they're, maybe new to the healthcare scene and sales and healthcare sales scene, or they're just looking for someone to bounce some ideas, off of and get some feedback. I'm happy to take those meetings, and always open to meeting new people.
Well, appreciate your time. We will do this again for sure, because the running theme that I have through this whole thing is kind of not only just getting to know new people and having old friends on here, but really just keep coming back to the well, because every time we talk to people, I learn more than I even think that I can learn. And so the more times we get together, it's called dialectic. I think I just learned that word, but it's when two people get together and share ideas, and then a third idea is born from it. It's just a big turn on for me. So the more that I can share that, the more I want to have to do with it.
I can't say and stress enough. I'm not trying to. What an inspiration you are! I mean, just man, what
Thanks.
you're doing, it's just cool to watch. I mean, you're doing it. What do you say? Your get to life, right? You know,
My get to studio, my get to life.
I get to do this, and it's been fun to watch. It's fun to watch the journey, and it's just starting for you. I mean, this is just the beginning.
Thank you very much.
I couldn't be happier for you.
Well, let's see what we can do together, man. Always better together.
Sounds great.
All right, Doug, we'll talk in a bit.
Thanks.
Well, thanks again for just another great episode, just under here in an hour, and what you learned in an hour, the nuggets that we could pick up from each other. Steve said it best, the contract and the difference between contract and contact is the letter R, and that R stands for relationship. So thanks for being here with us on the GoPro show, and we look forward to sharing more people, more ideas, and more inspiration with you next time.